Today's video is on the top 5 celebrity close calls.
Number 5. Post Malone. A famous American rapper and producer, Post Malone, was one of 16 people on the aircraft that was heading to London for a show. The plane took off from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, and things went wrong almost straight away when 2 tires broke off the plane during takeoff. Now, that's a scary thing to experience, but it's actually way worse than it sounds, because it meant that the plane had no way to land again safely. The plane spent 5 hours circling the tri-state area and eventually ended up diverting to New York instead of the UK, making an emergency landing on Stewart International Airport runway, which took some insane skill from the pilot. Post Malone had tweeted about the flight going wrong. He thanked his fans for their prayers and called out those who wished death on him. Number 4. Leonardo DiCaprio. Most people never come that close to dying before they actually do. Near-death experiences only really happen once, if they happen at all. However, some people are just unlucky enough to have to deal with almost dying on a regular basis. And one of those unlucky people is none other than Leonardo DiCaprio. For example, in 2006, a gigantic great white shark jumped into his cage while he was filming Blood Diamond in South Africa. Speaking on The Ellen Show, DiCaprio revealed that he just flattened down at the bottom, and he had to literally play dead until the great white shark went away. Not only that, but the famous actor was once on a plane looking out of the window when one of the engines broke down and the whole plane wing exploded into a fireball. Luckily, the plane ended up making an emergency landing in New York. And like that wasn't enough already, DiCaprio had another brush with death while he was skydiving, and his parachute became so knotted that the experts had to cut him free. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe to our channel with notifications on. Number 3. Harrison Ford. In March of 2015, Hollywood action star Harrison Ford suffered severe injuries when his single-engine plane crashed on a golf course in Venice, California. Ford was the only person aboard the vintage World War II aircraft that went down shortly after takeoff from Santa Monica Airport. It went down at the Penmar Golf Course on Rose Avenue in Venice. The plane could be seen flying low over the treetops after experiencing engine trouble on takeoff. Residents nearby saw the plane come down. It's worth mentioning that initially, the actor wanted to return to the airport, but upon realizing that there wasn't enough altitude to return to the runway, he decided to make an emergency landing, which he did safely. Ford, who was an experienced pilot of planes and helicopters alike, placed a distress call shortly after his vintage U.S. Army PT-22 plane lost power, requesting to return to the airport. Ford suffered severe injuries as a result of the plane crash, but luckily, 2 doctors who just happened to be at the golf course at the same time of the accident rushed over to treat the famous actor. Paramedics then arrived at the scene and shot time after the actor was transported to a nearby hospital where he spent several weeks recovering. Number 2. Ed Harris. While working on James Cameron's 1989 underwater sci-fi epic, The Abyss, Ed Harris was shooting a scene in which his character is stuck leagues beneath the surface of the ocean with a rapidly dwindling oxygen tank. In order to draw out the right notes of panic from his actor, Cameron decided it would be a good idea to actually let Harris's tank run low on oxygen, which could have, and nearly did, produce disastrous results. Cameron is known for being a perfectionist, but it's safe to say that his conduct, in this case, approached the boundary of professional ethics and then nonchalantly hopped right over it. When Harris ran out of the air, he gave the signal for oxygen, but the safety diver employed to assist him get hung up on a cable and almost didn't reach him in time. Then, in a near panic, the safety diver gave Harris his regulator upside down, which forced him to suck in water. Fortunately, the regulator's orientation was corrected at the very last second. When Harris was returned to dry land, he reportedly punched the director, who had kept filming the whole time. Harris reportedly broke down and cried later that evening, and he has since refused to talk about the experience, saying, "I'm not talking about the abyss, and I never will." Number 1. Johnny Depp. 2013's The Lone Ranger, starring Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp, was one of the most gigantic whiffs in a recent history full of them for Disney. The retelling of the fabled masked man's story failed to find a connection with any audiences, and by some estimates amounted to a nearly $200 million loss for Disney. It was one of the most inessential films of its year, but it had almost had the dubious distinction of ending the life of Johnny Depp, who appeared in heavy and ridiculous makeup as the Ranger's sidekick, Tonto. The near disaster occurred during a routine scene. As the pair were to be shot riding their horses at a gallop across the plains, Depp's horse, named Scout, became a little too enthusiastic in his duties, and while going at a full gallop, Depp's saddle slipped off to the side after being dragged for 25 yards. The actor said that he could see the horse's front legs moving at a dangerous speed. The famous actor then said he was trying to get back up by holding onto the mane when he made a split-second decision which may have saved his life. He didn't want to wait for the hoof to split his face and decided to go down on his own. Turns out, it was a good decision, because when the horse lifted its front legs, he missed the actor. But while he was on the ground, he got trampled by the animal's back legs, completely bruising the actor's torso. Luckily, he was able to free himself from the horse before getting kicked in the face. Depp was in pain, but remained in good spirits after the incident. While Depp would quip that he thought maybe the horse had it in for him, he chalked the incident up to user error and added that Scout was a good horse and that he was considering buying the horse at the production's end. Johnny Depp's accident earns a top spot on our list of 5 celebrity close calls. Now, let's take a look at some honorable mentions. Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone is an actress who came to her own in the 1980s and still works in the business of acting, modeling, and film production. She is most famous for her dramatic roles in films like Basic Instinct, Casino, Catwoman, and many other notable films. She also appears as a guest in television series Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and won an Emmy Award for her appearance in The Practice in 2004. In 2001, Sharon began experiencing terrible headaches and ended up in an emergency room only to discover that she had a brain bleed that necessitated surgery. While in the hospital, the doctors made the discovery that one of the arteries in her brain was nearly torn in two. Sharon experienced a near-death experience moments just after getting out of an MRI machine while talking with her doctors. In her own words, "It's sort of like passing out, but you sort of pass up." She related that the experience started off with an explosion of white light. It's just a lot of white light, and you see people that have passed on, and they'll talk to you, and then you pop right back into your body. Sharon said that the experience left her with a sense of well-being and peace, and that she has no fear of death as a result. Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence, who is famously known for her role in The Hunger Games, which happens to be the movie set where she almost lost her life. While filming the first movie back in 2003, the actress was only 23 years old and was reportedly at the risk of choking to death. One scene required Lawrence to be in a closed tunnel that would eventually have smoke dispersed into it. During the scene, the fog machine broke and began filling the tunnel with smoke at a very rapid pace. Luckily, directors were quick to yell at the crew to turn off the smoke machine and get big fans running through the tunnel so they could get Jennifer out of it.
I hope you all enjoyed today's video, narrated by Zach this time. Be sure to subscribe for more and check out some of our recent uploads.